Hello everyone and welcome back to Lucky Loads 15, where you've tuned into a slightly different video than our usual videos, which are just giving horse racing predictions and tips. This is episode 3 on a series now that we created a few weeks ago with something called the Loader Look, where I take a debate or a topic currently going on in horse racing. So far we covered who was the better jockey, Ryan Moore, Frankie Dettori, and then last week we looked at the fiasco that happened at Yarmouth, which since has thrown out a few more surprises. It turns out in the end that the trainer of that horse actually had a £10 each way bet on the race, which is the horse that came in at 50-1 and then turned out to be the wrong horse, and he was able to cash in on his bet there. But they managed to give him a fine, but a few people have said that that was quite a lenient fine and he should have been paid more consequences for his actions. So that was a judge of what you make of that, really, with that regard in horse racing. That's something that doesn't happen very often in horse racing. It's a very rare event. I think it only happened once in 10 years or something, they said previously before. So, and that happened to be a genuine honest mistake. So now you see that the trainer had an each way bet in the race, you don't really know what to believe. But away from that subject that we talked about last week, I'm going to be focusing on something a bit more closer to my heart here, and an underlying issue I have. If you're brand new to the channel, the main reason I created this is because in September I'm going back to university to study a master's degree in sports broadcast and journalism, and that's why I created the channel, to gain some experience in front of a camera presenting, also as well uploading and creating my own videos, just to gain that upper hand for when I go to university in an area that I haven't really worked in before. But sport has always been passion throughout my life, and horse racing is my main passion when it comes to sport. I absolutely love it, and this is actually what we're going to be discussing here on the channel. We're going to be asking, why isn't horse racing in the mainstream media, and what also as well are public perceptions around horse racing and how we can challenge that. If I do become a horse racing journalist, which hopefully I do one day, I don't care who I work for. I don't mind if I work for many different companies, but one message I would have is I would try and challenge the ideas that are around horse racing when it comes to the masses, because I feel that it's a really underrated and undervalued sport in the country. And I think if people were just to be able to understand it a bit more, they might get a lot more appreciateness out of the sport. And again, it's something I really want to challenge, because I think horse racing has had a little bit of a bad name, especially in recent years as well. That's all to do with the betting. My first argument would be actually that horse racing, a lot of people see, is all about the betting and all about the winners, where that is not always the case. Obviously, it's great predicting winners and winning money. There's very good high and very good feeling, which we all get winners, but I like it away from that as well. I like the fact that sometimes a horse comes second or third or fourth. You know, if you're an owner, you can still pick up prize money. I think it was the classic case at Goodwood last week in the Sussex Stakes. There was a horse that won that, called Here Comes When, for Andrew Bolden, and there was £1 million up for grabs in that race. And even though the horse did win £1 million in the end, it was a complete outsider, and the owners just ran it for the prize money. And to come fourth in that race and pick up something like £100,000, I'm not sure on what the exact prize money would have been, but to have £100,000 just for coming fourth, you know, that's good. And a lot of people sometimes don't see, like, away from the betting, and they don't see what fantastic creatures these horses are. They're absolutely fantastic animals. There's nothing better really seeing than a jockey and a horse being at one together, riding, whether it's on a flat track or over jumps. I just think that sometimes the betting is really gets in the way of people's perception of horses, because it's a great thrilling thing just to see horses all together running, the uncertainty which one is going to win, things like that. Because at the end of the day, all the jockeys and all the horse trainers work so hard when it comes to horse racing. A lot of people don't realise that a jockey might be riding somewhere one day and then the next day he's got to fly up to the top of Scotland to ride in another race, or sometimes that happens in the same day. Like, for example, we might have a jumps meeting. I think Richard Johnson did it earlier this year. He was down in Newton Abbot, all the way down in Devon for an early race in the afternoon, then he had to fly up to I think he had a ride at somewhere like Sedgefield, which is right up near Middlesbrough. So to get there in like 4 hours is pretty hard work, because sometimes they drive or they take transport by helicopter or planes. So a lot of people don't realise how much jockeys go through to ride lots of horses and ride winners, and it's not always about the winners, you know. And I just think that for example, betting is one of the aspects that lets horse racing down all about the money. Like if a horse, we've mentioned many times before, if it comes third or fourth, it's still a good run and it could come on next time and run even better. So it's not always about the winning, but largely a public idea of horse racing is if you don't win, then you're a useless animal, and that's not necessarily true. Horses are characters; they all have their characters. We did see many clouds, which did beat Thistlecrack one day earlier back in the year, where it died in the end, and a lot of people really showed what a great horse that was, because even though it did, yeah, you're going to argue, yes, it did win in the end and it's all about the winning, it wore its heart on its sleeve and it absolutely loved racing. And that's another thing I'm going to get onto as well in this vlog, that a public conception of horse racing is that it's cruel to let these animals run. No, it's not cruel. These animals are bred to do that. They love doing it. If you actually watch horse racing, you can see that a lot of time horses love jumping. You tend to get more accidents and more fatalities for horses on the jumps, which is obvious. Like, for example, when it's too firm ground for jumping, they'll call the meeting off, because obviously it could damage the horse's legs, so they will cancel the meeting for jumps, for example, if it's too firm. Also, as well, a lot of people don't realise when it comes to the flat action, there's always a vet on hand down by the stalls, and the stall handlers will work hard to try and put the horses in the stalls in the correct order so it's comfortable for the horses as they load them, because they know which ones, when they come down to post normally, are going to be the tricky horses to handle. And there's, like I said as well, with vet down at the stalls, there's also a vet on the national hunt, and they will make sure that all the horses are in good condition before they go out and race, because at the end of the day, they want a safe, good, clean race before they go, knowing that all the horses are in reasonably good health before they race. And again, people will say, oh, well, it's cruel with things like the whip and that. Well, again, there was an idea recently in the Racing Post that the whip should be banned from horse racing, but really a lot of the public don't realise that horse racing is very protected when it comes to its welfare. The whip is a necessary piece of equipment for a jockey. For example, sometimes you might see a horse is hanging to the left or the right, and whichever way it might be hanging and veering on course, a jockey will use the whip to rectify it to stay on a straighter course. Therefore, it could get away from horses and stop impeding horses. So the whip can be an instrumental piece of equipment. Also as well, they're only allowed to tap it a certain amount of times as well. So if they use it, I think it's something like 8 times on the flat that they can only be whipped. If they used more than 8 times, then they can come in for some harsher treatments, the jockeys. And I think it's 9 times on the national hunt circuit that they can use the whip. So it is an important piece of a jockey's arsenal, and a good jockey will always use the whip as a last resort. A lot of the time they use like the hands and heels, as it's called, sometimes, to just get the most out of the horse, and then if that's not working, then they might resort to the whip as the last option to get the horse to go. But a lot of the time, the whip is an essential piece of equipment, and a lot of people don't realise that there are things in place to protect the horses when it comes to running them. So welfare is really not an issue. So that's something I would always stress if I do get in a professional capacity. I do know that a lot of journalists on the television and on the radio and that do point out a lot of the time that there is a lot of protection for the horses when they run, and these magnificent animals are absolutely amazing and they absolutely love to run. You can often see it as well, that they have their ears pricked and they're really keen and interested, and that's what they've always been bred to do. They've always been bred to race and they absolutely love it. Like, for example, do you think a horse really wants to stand in a field all day? When it goes for a run and that, it probably absolutely loves it. You can tell definitely when a horse doesn't want to race. There was a famous horse this year, LeBake. He didn't really want to go, so the horse will if it really doesn't want to go, put up a fight and it won't go. So welfare, a lot of people really in the masses, as it were, don't really always understand that, and I think it needs to be emphasised more on how well horses are looked after. But there can always be improvements to go to in the welfare. But also as well, a last point I'm going to mention here on horse racing, another idea, it's just a social event, you know. It's just about going to the race course, getting pissed, like something like Royal Ascot is just about the glam, or if like at the moment I know a lot of race courses draw in big acts. I'm actually going to Newbury next week, where it's Ladies' Day and they've got Ollie Murs on, and that's a good thing to do to attract people to come to the race, and I think that is a good idea. But people probably think that it's always about that, where a lot of the time they will put on a day's racing, and a lot of people do enjoy their racing, and it's not always about the social aspect. A lot of people don't realise as well that horse racing is the most attended sport after football in the UK, with lots of people going to many different race meetings across the country every day. But I think a lot of racetracks could improve their numbers, and they are trying to, a lot of racetracks, educate their customers that go and watch the races. I know ITV, I will give them credit, recently when they got the rights for the mainstream broadcasting from Channel 4. I know a lot of people did like it on Channel 4, but I think one thing ITV did quite well, especially their Royal Ascot coverage as well, was make it much more appealing and much more educational, getting people that don't really know about horse racing to actually understand the rules and the procedures around horse racing, because I think sometimes they can seem to be quite complicated, but I thought they made it quite easy for people to understand. So that's something as well that I think needs addressing, and I know that they are doing that at like the race courses, and that like going, how do you put on a bet, all the things like with the headgear, the weights, things like that, that you and I, who might be expert horse race goers and know all about horse racing, would already know before we turn up at the track what to expect. So they are doing that, and they are trying to challenge that. But I just think that horse racing is so underrated, and I think some of the myths we've touched upon about the welfare, the social aspect, and all about the betting and the winning isn't all there is to horse racing, and there's a lot more to it. There's a lot more things as well that we haven't really talked about in this video as such, that we could do on another video. It's probably a theme that we will revisit in my horse racing vlogs, where I make tips and betting videos and things like that. So we will always touch upon it, and also as well, it's a theme that I'm really interested to explore further. Something I would like to do eventually is get out onto the racetracks and start interviewing maybe people, and we could ask their opinions as well about horse racing, what attracts them to it, and also as well what they feel they could get out of horse racing and learn from it. So it'd be really good to see what you guys have to say about horse racing. What attracts you to horse racing, or what do you hate about horse racing? What do you think horse racing as well needs to do to attract more people to view it? Because it used to be the sport of kings, but now it is a minority sport. It doesn't get reported on, and especially the main news, unless like it's a Grand National, the Derby, or maybe something unbelievable has happened like we saw the other day at Yarmouth, like a scandal or controversy. It's never really reported on. So yeah, let us know your thoughts on that. So you've been watching episode 3 of the Loader Look. Also as well, watch out for our tips as well, which we upload most days. Also as well, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Like the video as well for more horse racing daily content, and let us know what you would like to see us debate next. Yes, so hopefully we'll have a good day today. We've made this on a Saturday. It's Shergar Cup day, but we've tipped for Ascot and Newmarket, and hopefully we can have a full set of winners there. But hey ho, at least if they run creditably, I won't mind that. So gamble responsibly. Hope you like the videos, and we'll be seeing you soon.